An Introduction to Falkland Islands Tax. The Falkland Islands are an amazing place to live, work and do business. But like all places where you live, work and do business, you have to be aware of your tax obligations. Whilst the Falkland Islands are a British overseas territory, this does not make them British for tax purposes. They're not under the jurisdiction of HM Revenue and Customs and don't follow UK tax laws. They govern and legislate themselves in most aspects. This includes tax. The Falkland Islands Government Tax Office, or FIGTO, administer tax using the Taxes Ordinance 1997 and other legislation. What does this mean for you? Well, like all places in the world where you live, work or do business, you may well have to pay tax in the Falkland Islands. This video will provide an overview of the taxes you may have to pay. There are three main taxes you may need to consider: income tax, corporation tax, employee taxes. Beyond these, there are no other taxes you need to consider. We will now look at these in more detail. If you're an individual living and working in the Falkland Islands, you'll need to fill out and submit a tax return each year in most cases. There are reliefs and allowances available. These will be determined by your tax residency status. Every tax resident individual gets a personal allowance of £15,000. Then, the next £12,000 is taxed at 21%, with the remainder taxed at 26%. Companies pay corporation tax on their profits and must file a return, computation and company accounts. The tax itself is due 8 months and 1 day after the accounting period end, with the return itself due 9 months after the accounting period end. The first £500,000 of profits are taxed at 21%, with the remainder taxed at 26%. This limit is reduced for any associated companies. If you have employees, there is a requirement to make deductions from wages for a tax referred to as Payment on Account of Tax, or POAT for short. You will also have to both pay and deduct RPC, which is a retirement pension contribution for a Falkland Islands pension. You are required to file monthly and yearly returns and pay any tax and RPC to the tax office monthly. If non-monetary benefits are given to your employees, such as accommodation, loans, or use of a vehicle, these will need to be taxed as benefits in kind. Whilst these are the only taxes you need to be familiar with, you must always remember that these taxes are backed up by the Falkland Islands' own tax laws. These can be both generous in the reliefs given. For example, the Falkland Islands has a very generous depreciation allowance for capital purchases, and complicated. While the terms may be familiar to those used to the UK or other tax regimes, they are specific to the Falkland Islands, and you should not rely on your familiarity to comply with Falkland Islands tax law. There may be access to double taxation relief where you've been taxed twice on the same income. Any claim would need to be evidenced, and it can be complicated to determine who has primary taxing rights. Further relief may be available if you're UK-based through the UK and Falkland Islands Double Tax Treaty. This is the only tax treaty that the Falkland Islands has. Military contractors make up a large part of the overall economic activity of the Falkland Islands, and like any other business, are taxable in the Falkland Islands. If you're UK-based, your activity may be covered under the Double Taxation Treaty, although the rules around this are complicated. An exemption is available for employees on their taxes, although this relief needs to be applied for through the appropriate channels and approved by a high-level committee in government. Acceptance is by no means guaranteed. Albatross Tax hopes you have enjoyed this introduction to Falkland Islands tax, found it useful and are not too overwhelmed. While the Falkland Islands tax system may seem unfamiliar, we are here to help. If you have any queries, questions, or require assistance with your tax affairs, contact Albatross Tax. We have a dedicated tax advisor for all aspects of Falkland Islands tax. Visit our website today.